The Hurricanes are off Monday and Tuesday, but that does not mean they are not in the news. There has been some talks over the last couple of days of Andrei Svechnikov being open to a trade. Also going to address the narrative that the goaltending for the Carolina Hurricanes is mid, despite the fact that we've seen some pretty good goaltending so far this season. And unfortunately, we got to talk about the power play. All of that and more on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Huckers. Also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. On the Tuesday edition of the show, we're going to be talking about what Elliotte Friedman mentioned over the weekend and on Monday's edition of 32 Thoughts, talking about Andrei Svechnikov. Also going to talk about the narrative that we keep seeing around about how the goaltending for the Hurricanes is very mid and it's not that great, but want to address once again, the goaltending is pretty good for the most part. And then also talking about how the power play is still in shambles for the Carolina Hurricanes, despite being second in the NHL in points this season. But before we jump into all that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Down the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com. Win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So, over the weekend, it was told during Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday that Andrei Svechnikov was unhappy with his ice time, and word was he'd be open to the idea of a trade if it got to that. Teams were told Carolina doesn't want to trade him and it has to take a monster offer. Everything has calmed down now. Then Elliotte Friedman followed that up on the Monday edition of 32 Thoughts, saying that on Svechnikov, when he wasn't playing much to start the year, he told the Hurricanes if they wanted to trade him, he wouldn't be opposed to it. Then the Hurricanes told teams they don't want to trade him, and it would take a monster offer. It has sorted itself out now being the fact that he's been playing top-line minutes and has seen his scoring really taken off for the Carolina Hurricanes as of late. Then, of course, it's the big hoopla over the last couple of days, talk about, mock trades, think pieces, all this stuff on, would the Hurricanes actually trade him? What could potential mock trades look like? And that's the thing that's really, it's the thing when you talk, any type of news or rumor like that happens, it's automatic every single time. Here comes a million mock trades. Here comes everyone who doesn't really talk about the Hurricanes very much want to start talking about the Hurricanes, seeing that the system is bad. Rod Brind'Amour's not a great coach. What could take to get Andrei Svechnikov out of Carolina, this, that, and the other. And you not really, unless you watch the Hurricanes consistently, you don't really know what's going on in Carolina. And it's just, when the Hurricanes pop up on news, everyone wants to talk about them. And it's just a lot of what you think is going on, or it's just trying to reach for something that's not really there. In the context of the Carolina Hurricanes, I know everyone who watches this show or listens to Canes Cast or whatever other Hurricanes podcast you listen to, or you read stuff from Corey Lavalette, Chip Alexander, Ryan Henkel, myself, whoever, we know what's going on for the most part with the Hurricanes. And the thing is, the Hurricanes aren't going to trade Andrei Svechnikov, on top of the fact that to start the season, Andrei Svechnikov was not in a great spot when it came to his performance. Lately, yes, he has very much turned it around for the Carolina Hurricanes, where he is currently on this team in terms of when you look at the point totals for Andrei. He is now 7th on the team, or tied for 6th with Taylor Hall with 12 points. But the thing, too, is when it comes to his goal total, he is actually tied with Jordan Staal with 7 goals. So he has really turned it around. He's got 4 power play goals and 1 game winner. He's been on a tear as of late for the Carolina Hurricanes. If you look at his average time on ice this season, it has definitely gone up. He's now at 16-11. But when you look at his stats, when you look at his overall ice time, Like, yeah, there was a point you were looking at 13, 11, 13 through the run through end of October. And, you're getting some 15s and 14s here. Then, okay, you go from November 4th against the Rangers, where, he scored in back-to-back games finally after going through 8 games of not having a point. He gets 3 points in 2 games. He plays another 15 and another 14 minutes. And then you hit the Minnesota game, 18-32, 18-11, 17-30, 15-19, 20. You get the drift. Ever since the Minnesota game, he's been on an absolute tear for the Carolina Hurricanes in terms of points. Against Buffalo, unfortunately, 1935, he did have 5 shots, but was a -2. But the thing is, his ice time went up. And that's why it's why you see it's died down now, because they put him from the first line to the second down to the fourth. They had to bring him back up due to injuries, and they just wanted to figure some line stuff out. He's back on the first line with Aho and Jarvis, and he's been playing well. His ice time is back up, and that's why you're hearing anything. And the Hurricanes don't want to trade him. He's got a bunch of time left on his contract. The money isn't bad. Like, it's under $8 million. And the thing, too, is the Hurricanes said it would have to be a monster offer. So when you see some trade mocks that are just kind of like, these would never make any sense, and the Hurricanes would say no, that's why, for me, this is an expiration date issue. This issue was 2-3 weeks ago. This is early in November issue of this getting brought up, and then you can talk about it. But now everyone's all up in arms, or everyone's up and talking about it now, because Elliotte Friedman mentioned it in the middle of Andrei Svechnikov being in a hot run for the Hurricanes. And now everyone's like, oh, what happens if they do want to trade? They're not going to. The Hurricanes have said no. It's got to be a massive offer. And the thing is, and there's teams that are like, oh, what if, the Rangers or whoever? It's like, if the Hurricanes ever thought about that, they're not going in division. The Hurricanes and Eric Tulsky are not stupid to trade a guy like Andrei Svechnikov to where you face him 4 times a season. That's not a thing. That's not going to happen. If anything, it's either maybe to the Atlantic where you face him a couple times, or you're shipping him out west to the Western Conference where you see him twice a year. But that's if the Hurricanes want to trade him, and it's if there's a massive deal on the table. And I don't see a massive deal coming onto the table for Andrei Svechnikov. Not because he's a bad player. I just don't know what team is willing to give up a lot to get a guy like Andrei, who's a power forward, 25 years old, still has a ceiling that he could potentially reach. Before his ACL injury, he was really good. He's been slowly building back up to where he was, but he's been on a run as of late for the Hurricanes. So that's why it's so annoying, and so where I look at this as this had an expiration date, and we are past this. But because it just is a recent thing, everyone's going to talk about it, and there's no reason for it. So Andrei's not going anywhere. The only reason why he said he would probably be open because he was struggling, and he thought if the Hurricanes wanted to trade him, and that's if that was a thing that actually happened. Who knows? It's coming from Elliotte Friedman, so I will take that there is potential that it was said. But the Hurricanes are saying no. They know what the value is in him, and they've had him since they drafted him. They're not going to get rid of this guy. They're not going to be like the Rangers and get rid of Capocacco because they don't know how to develop him, or insert another team who drafted a guy, didn't develop him, trade him somewhere else, and he thrived. The Hurricanes aren't going to do that. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't see it happening. And that's why, for me, it's like this is a non-issue. This is something that's the timeline should be blowing up about it. This is why there's why think pieces and mock trades should not be in place right now for a story that's, in my mind, should have been done 2 weeks ago and not now, all of a sudden, where now we're talking about it. It's a non-issue. It's not that big of a deal. Andrei Svechnikov is not leaving the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes aren't going to trade him. Like I said, it's going to be a massive deal, and I don't see a team going out of their way to do that. So, in my estimation, how I'm viewing this is a non-issue. We're going to talk about it for about 10 minutes on the show, and that's it. We're done with it. This is not a big deep dive thing to talk into it. His ice time was down because he was struggling, didn't score 0.8 games, started scoring, figured it out. Now he's thriving on the first line. And now we're back to a non-issue. This is the thing that doesn't really matter. And we move on. And that's always for Andrei Svechnikov. So let me know what you guys think in the comments if you're on the YouTube side of things, or hit me up on social media on OneTrueZach. Let me know your thoughts about the Andrei Svechnikov stuff. For me, it's a non-issue. Not that big of a deal. Nothing's going to come of it. And I think this is just something that just should have happened 2 weeks ago. And now it's just a moot point and a moot conversation to talk about. Now, that being said, there is a conversation we got to have to talk about because, once again, it's popping up again for the Carolina Hurricanes, and it's about their goaltending. Stick around. We'll talk about it here in a second on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, so we talked about the Andrei Svechnikov rumors and just the nonsensical whirlwind we've seen of that recently. Now it's time to talk about something that's popped up once again. I've been kind of seeing it on social media. I've been seeing it in the comment section here on Locked On Hurricanes on the YouTube side of things, but thank you to everyone who are commenting. I do see your stuff, and I've been seeing this narrative recently how the Hurricanes goaltending is once again mid. It's not that great. We're skating by. And the thing for me is the goaltending isn't as bad as people make it out to seem. Like, if you really look at what the Carolina Hurricanes are, yes, Frederik Andersen has played 12 games. He is 5-5-2. He does have a 307 goals against and an 881 save percentage. I will say that, yes, Frederik Andersen is struggling for the most part this year for the Hurricanes. His goals against average are the worst of his career, and his save percentage is also the worst of his career. And we have seen recently, in the last couple starts, not the greatest of showings for him in the save percentage and when you really need it, especially in fact, if you look back at the Minnesota game on November 6th, 3 goals allowed. 3 goals allowed against Washington, 4 goals allowed against Edmonton, 3 goals against Minnesota again, and then 3 goals against Buffalo. 875, 889, 826, 842, 850 save percentages. Unfortunately, in his last 5 starts, he has 1 win, 2 games where you lose in a shootout or overtime, and then you have 2 regulation losses. Not a great run for Frederik Andersen as of late, especially, like I said, in the last 5 games dating back to November 6th. And like I said, when you look at his goals against average, he's never been above 3. He's at 3 right now, but we're talking about that there's 60 games left into the season. This could definitely turn around. I think it will turn around. His save percentage, he's had some seasons where he was under 900. But for the most part, the only other time was back in Toronto 2020, 2021, it was 895. Last season, it was an 899. He could have been over 900. This year, yeah, it's a little bit lower than usual. I will grant it that. Freddie has been struggling. He hasn't missed time. He's been available, knock on wood. But, yeah, it's maybe not the greatest season for me. Yes, you would love to have some more saves, especially against this last game against Buffalo, especially against Minnesota. You would love to have some saves out of Freddie. I'll give the credit there that yes, there are some saves you really wish you had. It seems like he has been kind of struggling making the saves that you really need, but there's still a lot of season left. I think Freddie could turn it around, but it is a little bit concerning that in the last 5 starts he's gotten 1 win, 2 regulation losses, and then 2 overtime shootout losses as well. Now, the other side of things, you look at Brandon Bussi. 5-1 on the season, a 267 goals against and an 897 save percentage. Now, for him, he's been playing pretty well for the Hurricanes, all things considered. Yes, I know that he's given up 3 goals against the Kings on October 18th, 3 against Dallas, 2 against the Islanders, 4 against Toronto, and 3 against Winnipeg. Save percentage is 893, 912, 929, 800, and 893, but he's won 4 out of his last 5 starts. So for a guy who's only played 6 career NHL games, I'm not going to beat down on a guy who's only played 6 games his entire career, where he has 3 games above 900 and 3 games below 900, 941, 893, going back to San Jose and LA, then 912, 929, 800, 893. Overall, yeah, he had 1 game where he gave up 4 goals against Toronto, but let's be honest, every game against Toronto has been weird since the David Ayers game, where it's the Zamboni driver. That's been a weird thing for the Maple Leafs. But the thing is, too, there are some games, Dallas, nothing he can do about that. 3 goals against him that were either deflections or it was a friendly fire thing. He gave up 4 against Toronto. Like I said, it's a weird game. Winnipeg, costly turnovers by the Hurricanes. They didn't really set him up very well. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt for the fact that it's been 6 years. He's only played 6 games total in his NHL career, and it's been with a team that's been kind of giving up a lot of odd man rushes on a lot of turnovers. I'm not going to, kick a guy down or be negative on someone who's, playing his first ever games after being an AHL guy for the last few seasons. He's actually getting an opportunity. And the thing is, he's got a winning record. Like, he's got a sub 2.7 goals against. Yeah, save percentage is at 897, but we all know this. The Hurricanes don't give up a lot of shots, and you give up 2 or 3 goals on 20, 22, 23 shots. Yeah, your save percentage doesn't look good. So you kind of have to give that with a grain of salt. But if you look at Frederik Andersen, okay, yes, you're giving up over 3 a game, and your save is 881. That's different from 897 and a 2.67 goals against average. So I'm going to give Brandon Bussi a lot of leeway. Peter Kochetkov, yes, he did miss some games this year. It does stink that we missed him early, and the fact that I've been seeing the narrative, oh, well, goalie's made of glass. He's out again. Okay, stuff happens. Guys get hurt. I mean, Mackenzie Blackwood of Colorado missed a lot of games this year. We've seen other goalies already go down this year. They're already missing time. Connor Hellebuyck's missing 4 to 6 weeks for a knee issue. Like, goalies are going to be injured. It happens. But the thing is, when you see Peter Kochetkov come back for the Carolina Hurricanes, he's played in 5 games. He started 4 of them, but he's 4-0. Gets a shutout in his first start against the Rangers in Madison Square Garden. Then he gives up 3 goals against Buffalo in the win. It's an 864 save percentage. Isn't great, but you got the win. Comes in relief for Friday against Washington. Didn't really see a shot. He only played 3 minutes and 36 seconds. Vancouver gives up 3 goals, but you get the win in that game, and an 824 save percentage. Wasn't great, but you won it in overtime. And the thing is, he had 17 shots against him. It wasn't like he was getting peppered all game. Yeah, the save percentage sounds low, but it was just a bad game on both sides, really. But the Hurricanes were able to come out on the winning side of that. And then Boston, an 967 save percentage, he gave up 1 goal with 9 seconds left. And really, that was just the team not really boxing out anyone. And Rod Brind'Amour wasn't really upset about it. So in reality, Pierre Kochetkov was 9 seconds away from 2 shutouts in 4 starts. So the whole narrative of the goalies being, like, the whole goalie core being mid, I don't agree with that, because you've been seeing some games where Brandon Bussi stood on his head to keep the Hurricanes in some games and got them some wins. Yeah, he's had maybe a couple of down games, but they picked him up after he picked the team up. And Pierre Kochetkov has won since he's come back. Like, he's had some great games. Like, let's not say that, oh, well, he's made of glass, he's not the guy, but he's been the guy since he came back. And I've been saying, you heard me say this all last year too. Yeah, the LA Kings game kind of hurt his confidence because he got hung out the dry for a 7-piece. You can't put Freddie in because it's on the first half of a back-to-back, so you can't do anything about that. Yeah, he didn't give him a lot of opportunities in the playoffs because he was kind of in his own head a little bit, and I can't blame him for that, because what goalie wants to get pumped for 7 goals? No one does. But the thing is, he's won 51 games the previous 2 seasons before coming into this year. If not for him, where does the Hurricanes look like in terms of making the playoffs without him winning 51 games? He set a career high of 27 last year, and he's already 4-0 this year. So I wouldn't say goaltending is mid. It's just you have Piotr only playing 4 games, but has looked really good in those 4 games. Like I said, Vancouver, that was just a weird game in general because the Hurricanes gifted Vancouver some free opportunities, but they got the win. Brandon Bussey saved the Hurricanes in a lot of games, and look where he's at. They're doing fine when he's there. They say he's 5-1. The only guy that's kind of struggling now is Freddie. So I wouldn't say the whole group is mid. It's just one guy's kind of struggling right now, and you got 2 other ones that are playing pretty well. So I don't agree to this mid conversation of the goaltending. Goaltending, once again, for me, is not really the main issue. It's the defense and the team in front of them not playing consistent hockey night in and night out. And we've seen it recently that they've been the team has been giving up a lot of chances that they shouldn't be giving chances to other teams, to where the goalie has to make more 10-bell saves than they really need to. So, once again, it's not really a goaltending problem, in my opinion. But let me know in the comments section. Do you agree? Do you think it's mid? Or do you think that I'm completely off? So, let me know what you think. I think goaltending is okay. I think we're getting some production out of some of these guys. One guy's really kind of struggling for the most part. But other than that, I think the goaltending is fine for the Hurricanes. But let me know in the comments what you think. All right, so we talked about the Svechnikov rumors. We talked about goaltending, but now let's talk about the unfortunate power play woes that are still plaguing the Hurricanes. Stick around. We'll talk about it here in a second on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in. The app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Those zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. How big? You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, so we talked about the Andrei Svechnikov rumors or the rumblings that were going on with that. Talk about the goaltending. Now let's talk about the power play woes. They're still plaguing the Carolina Hurricanes. Luckily, with the Hurricanes scoring against Buffalo on Sunday, they are no longer the last place team on the power play percentage. Surprisingly, it's the New York Islanders at 13.3%, where they've gone 10 for 75 in their opportunities. And then it's the Calgary Flames, 13.4%, going 11 out of 82. And then it's your Carolina Hurricanes, actually tied with the LA Kings in the Utah Mammoth at 14.3%, with Carolina being 9 for 63. LA is 10 for 70. And then the Utah Mammoth are 9 for 63. And that's where you kind of look at where you're at for the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, you have 9 power play goals. That's great. But however, you've had 63 opportunities. And the bad thing too is, though, you've allowed 2 shorthanded goals in that process as well. So your net power play percentage is actually 11.1% compared to Calgary's 11, New York Islanders 10.7. At least you're not as bad as the LA Kings, where you've given up 4 shorties, and your net power play percentage is actually 8.6%. But the Hurricanes are in a spot where you're not last. You're technically, 27th. You're tied for 27th in the league on the power play. With LA and Utah is not the greatest, but at least you're kind of in a better spot in reality. But in terms of how it works out, still not the greatest. And the thing is, when you look at it, you have guys like Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Shane Gostisbehere, Jackson Blake, Logan Stankov, and you get the point here. For a team like Carolina, who's second in the entire NHL, you're first in the Metro, you're first in the East, You should not have a power play that's quintessentially, if you kind of look outside of the tie, you're the third to worst team. You're 29th on the you're 30th on the power play. You are very bad. You're 30 out of 32. You shouldn't be there. But technically you're tied on the power play with two other teams. But with the talent you have, you really shouldn't be there. And yes, at least the guys are moving around. You're not just standing there. It's not as stagnant. There is some movement, but it's just it's looking for the too many passes, it's being too cute with it. And you guys heard me talk about this during the good, the bad, and the ugly show that we did a couple weeks ago, is that there's just no net front presence for the Hurricanes. You don't have a Stefan Nason. You don't have a, JT Miller for the Rangers, or you look at other guys that go to the crease that, screen the goalie or put a body in front of them. The Hurricanes don't really have a guy that you can just throw in front of the crease. And I think that it's just, there's not enough greasy goals. There's not a lot of, you've got to crash the net. It's a lot of perimeter shooting, a lot of trying to aim to, try to set up for the one-timer or stuff like that. You're not really seeing a lot of box outs. You're not really seeing a lot of net front presence. And I think that's what's kind of killing the Hurricanes as of late, is that I think you need a guy like Stefan Nason who is not afraid to get in front of the crease and battle for pucks and get those greasy goals. We're just not seeing that from the Hurricanes. Yeah, the movement's great. When you do get the power play opportunity, it's a great one-timer. But other than that, it's just, there's not really there. I don't know if it's just the quarterback. Like, Shane Gostisbehere is fine. He scored a power play goal against Buffalo. So I don't know if it's the guy on the sidewall. I don't know if it's the bumper. I don't know if it's the guy down low, or it's just something that has to give at some point, because you can't have the 30th power play in the National Hockey League when you look at a team that, yeah, the PK isn't the greatest. You're still talking about a penalty kill unit for Carolina, who, as of right now, is a lot lower than they used to be. They're right now 21st at 78.6%, but there are some, unfortunate reasons. We know Jacob Slavin and a lot of other things haven't really gone your way, but you're used to a team that's usually top 5 on the PK and a power play that's kind of top 15. Last two seasons, you're talking 25th last year. This year, you're 30th. And you might put a couple of guys in that's different, but there's really nothing's changed. It's just not a lot of net front. It's a lot of passing. It's a lot of trying to get the perfect shot. You can't have a perfect shot. That's just, you're not going to be able to have the opportunity. So if the perfect shot's not working, get some net front. Get some guys that are going to do some drive-by screens, or put a guy that's going to be in front of the crease to screen the goalie, or do something that's different. Because right now it's not working. You can't have just 9 power play goals on the season with the talent you have. You really just can't do that. So I think, if you want to have a deep playoff run, or if you want to get the PK, I know the PK is struggling more than usual, but it's just unfortunate circumstances of where we're at, where we don't have our best penalty killers right now. And recently, there's been some defensive breakdowns. There's been plays where you wish you got a little bit more out of it. But, there's, like I said, there's so much runway left into the season. Things will turn itself around. I think the PK will find a way to turn itself around to get back in the top 5. But can the power play? I'm not saying the power play needs to be top 5, but at least get into the top half. If you at least get in the top 16, top 15, okay, then that's fine. That's doable. You can manage with that. But 30th with this talent, that's just a tough read. That's a tough thing to look at. So hopefully it gets figured out soon. But like I said, there's so much runway to the season left. The Hurricanes are first in the Metro. Like I said, they're first in the East, second in the NHL. It'll turn itself around, but it's just something's got to give on this power play. We're 22 games in. We should not be at this spot right now, where you're still struggling this much to capitalize on the man advantage. But hopefully something gives soon. I know we're on Thanksgiving week and December is not that far away. So hopefully something gets figured out before the new year kicks in, because we can't have like it was last year, where you look at January 1st until the start of the playoffs and you have 3 power play goals. Yeah, you had 10 in the playoffs, but can you really bank on 10 power play goals in the playoffs again? Hopefully get something a little bit sooner, but we will definitely see for sure. But guys, this will be the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first visit. For your second one, check out the AHL Locked On AHL game night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find AHL game night on Locked On AHL on YouTube or wherever listen to your podcast. If you want to keep up with me, I'm one true Zach on X. The podcast is @L_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin, where if you click the link tree in my bio, you can find all my written content at thehockeywarriors.com. I've been putting a lot of stuff out there recently. Also, when you check out my other podcasts, it's the Search Cast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube for Locked On Hurricanes. We're on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up so I'm going to affect the show as well. Share with other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Tuesday. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.